Welcome back to another DF Retro play. I'm John Linneman, and I'm joined once again by my partner in crime, Audie Surly. Welcome.
How is it going, John?
It's good. Probe Entertainment's on the screen. You're seeing futuristic vehicles tear across the ground here. That can only mean one thing. It's Extreme G. But not just Extreme G. So, let's set the stage here. Today, we're going to tackle 3 futuristic racing games on the Nintendo 64. There's a reason for this, tied to an upcoming episode, which you may or may not know about by this point, but it's coming. This is another futuristic racing game, and it's a great one. You actually picked this one first, and for good reason.
I always thought this game was kind of underrated, especially for N64. It has like really nice particle effects, the smoke. Always loved the design. It's very Tron-like. You know, like
the light
lights.
cycles.
Yeah, I always loved just the way this game feels and looks and sounds. Not to mention the music is
very
cool.
impressive.
Yeah.
So let's continue talking about it. But first, I'm going to go ahead and begin the game. So give me I'll do my best here. It's been a while since I played this. Playing a fresh one here. Start with novice. I'm doing Grimace, just like
Grimace. Yeah.
Is it named after the McDonald's character? 'Cause it's purple.
Maybe. I mean, it has those teeth and the colors. I forget, what does Grimace look like?
He's like,
is he purple?
Is he the big purple thing, or is it something else?
Yeah, you're right. Is this like the extreme version of Grimace?
Yeah, this is like the mid '90s,
the exports version.
The exports version, exactly. That's what we're dealing with here. It's the ESPN.
We're still in the '90s. We're still very much in the '90s in this game. So.
But yes, so
Muga.
Yeah, that's right. We got the Muga, the Jolt, the Main, Apollyon.
Apollyon.
It's appalling. Rays, Rana, Khan. And there's Grimace again, which I'm going with. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go with Grimace.
So,
I like this shards effect too, by the way.
Yeah, all the transitions in this game are awesome. So
yeah.
I'm going to do my best, you know, as always. Talking, playing at the same time. This is a fast game. Going through the capture card.
It's got that right away there. You got that lens flare effect, which is baked in, though. It's not real, so to speak. Is
it's just a
layer.
But it's just a graphic layer. But
I was amazed by that back in the N64 era. That was the first time I can remember seeing lens flare in games.
No, you're absolutely right.
I was always like,
this.
I'm sure you saw it on PC though.
You know, N64 kind of kicked off the trend, though. I mean, games like Turok Dinosaur Hunter did that as well, which was another acclaimed published game.
Yeah, that's right.
Before we get into the details of the development and, you know, more about the game, though, we should probably note that this is being captured and played on the N64Digital mod. Very recent additions from the same crew, PixelFX now, that did the DC Digital, or HDMI as it used to be known, and the PS1 Digital. These mods are fantastic because they tap directly into the chips in the system to pull the digital signal right off the board and give you a super crisp HDMI output. And also, in the N64's case, you actually get RGB analog output with deblur function. So it's both great for analog and digital usage. We are running the HDMI digital output here, and man, it's very, very crisp. So
yeah, this is the best the N64 has ever looked, isn't it? And
indeed,
we both got a unit to play around with. We'll do more with them. This is the first video we used them for, I think, at this point. Well, at least, I think this will be the first one.
Actually, let me just pause real quick. This is cool. So for everyone watching, you can actually pop open the menu by pressing right, C right, and then the R and L button. And from here, you actually get access to this menu. So there's actually lots of scaling options you can do, which is cool. Up to 6x, which is intense. I'm actually doing 4 for a specific. I just like the pixel precision you get.
Yeah.
You get some aspect ratio adjustments. You can interpolate. So if you're doing an uneven scale like 4.5, you want to use like slight interpolation, for instance. You know, different resolution outputs are available, which is nice. You do get scan lines, and these are quite adjustable and very excellent.
These scan lines, by the way, are among the best I've seen on any of these types of units.
I agree. Absolutely. But yeah, that's basically the idea. It's updatable and everything online, just like the DC and PS1 version. But with that,
One thing you didn't
let's get back to the
mention,
race.
but I'll mention quick,
Yeah, go for
is
it.
that it has a PAL resolution, this slider as you saw there, and
Oh yeah.
it's amazing. And
Oh,
with an
that's not.
EverDrive, you can really do some amazing stuff with the N64 Digital and your favorite games. So yeah, this is my favorite way of playing N64. I actually tested it next to the RetroTink the other day.
Oh yeah.
And through composite, I mean, to speak favorably, I mean, the RetroTink 5X is an amazing device, because even though this is the best clarity you'll get, I was pretty impressed by just how good the RetroTink looked.
With composite,
composite cable.
and again, if you have an analog RGB cable, you can do that as well with this, thanks to this mod.
I don't have that for my PAL unit,
and it's because N64 by default does not include support for that. So that's a nice bonus.
That's right. And
but
I think the US N64s have S video, right?
That's the maximum they have, yeah, S video. But
yeah,
you're right. The PAL units are composite only, aren't they?
Yes.
Oof, brutal.
It was dark times, my friend. Dark times.
Woo-hoo.
Especially the N64 era. That was perhaps the worst the PAL would ever get.
It kind of was, wasn't it? But
it really was. Looking back, the only highlight is that we got the Lilith Wars naming scheme, just the proper naming scheme for Star Fox 64.
That's pretty good. All right, though, let's talk more about Extreme G, because I'm sure people watching this probably are familiar with this, but maybe not. So this is actually a game from, would you describe this as like Acclaim's golden years?
Yeah, absolutely. N64, man. They had Acclaim Sports. They had
Turok.
all these types of games. Turok.
That part is so
Extreme
cool.
G.
They're going down that hill with the clouds and the sun. Whew. But yeah, tons of games.
Yeah, Acclaim was at this point kind of like an Activision type thing, where it's just like they had divisions, they had studios all over the place. They had a comic book.
Valiant Comics, right?
Yeah, which funneled their licensing department for video games. So, Acclaim. They also did a lot of wrestling games at this time, which were not great.
Yeah, not everything they did. Acclaim still they still put out some not so great games, but by and large their output during this era was a lot better than it ever had been, and probably the best it would ever be.
Considering they were coming from like LGN type stuff, the N64 era was very kind to them, and I think they were among. I know Nintendo and Acclaim kind of had a relationship at this time, and got some sponsorship or like some funding, right? To do Nintendo specific stuff. So
that's right. They were part of the Dream Team, I think.
Yeah, something like this. So, and I mean, when you look at games like this, because this is an N64 exclusive, I think the sequels would eventually come to other consoles.
They did, yeah.
But I look at something like this, and I mean, this holds up. First of all, design-wise, I think this holds up today remarkably well.
Yeah, it's a weirdly attractive game. Like I gotta admit, it holds up really well. I mean, the frame rate's a little bit sketchy, as is often the case, but it's better than average for N64, I would say.
And I think the stage designs generally take the frame rate into account, so it's not like it affects the game the same way that, like today, for example.
Like F-Zero X would not have worked at this frame rate. It's too fast.
It would not. It would not. Absolutely not. I mean, that's the main comparison, right? Is of course F-Zero, but I think considering this is a Nintendo console with perhaps the greatest, until GameCube, the greatest futuristic racing game of all time on it, there's something to be said that you managed to do something this good that holds up today, that is fun to play. And one thing you haven't even mentioned yet, because you keep being pretty good at this right now, is the combat. The combat in this game is actually quite fun, and I like to focus on it.
I haven't had as much of a chance to actually put it to use.
Shoot people.
Sometimes those junctions come out of nowhere.
Yeah, the stage design and even the textures. I mean, the muddy textures of the N64. Of course, they're being helped a little bit with the N64Digital here. But
Sure.
even when I played it on my TV back in the day, it had an atmosphere that I loved. It really just kind of evoked a lot of, like, I don't know, grime.
It did.
Dirt.
Look at this level. This foggy city. It sort of has that thick, toxic, late '90s kind of futuristic vibe going on.
Industrial.
It's a very industrial.
Yeah, it's it's like the music at the time too, industrial rock. This is what I was listening to bands and stuff that very much fit into this visual style. The music style of the game is more like techno and trance, which isn't bad. It's pretty good music for N64.
Probe was a UK studio, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, they actually did a number of racing games over the years, including others. I mean, they did Forsaken for PC and PlayStation.
Yeah.
But then they also did, all the Extreme G games, as well as Revolt, the second Revolt.
I like Revolt.
Revolt was kind of a fun little game.
Yeah. I think on DF, we have been a little bit, let's say, unfortunate when it comes to Pro, because for the most part we've talked about their ports for Mortal Kombat and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Not all of which were bad, but some of them being, interesting. And then, of course, we had our legendary hands-only Batman Forever retro play.
Yeah, they're Batman games. Those are.
But I think in Probe's defense, I mean, they were just a dependable studio. They were quick, and they can work on any console and push out favorable performance. So I can kind of see why you have this unevenness to their library. But when you look at something like this, where it's like, hey, they're doing the designs, they're putting out a game, this is good. So Probe is good. They're not like a they're not a Teartex.
No, not at all. But my performance during this race is...
You're not too used to the stage, I can tell, but it's kind of, you do a few laps and you get used to what I kind of, you kind of noted this earlier, by the way, but a lot of stages in this game, they have that drop at the beginning of the stage, where like a roller coaster, like here. And I loved that when I was a kid. I just love the fact that you start your race with this huge, like, almost 90-degree drop.
It's a shame that this game was developed before the rise of, the dubstep and the drop.
Right.
I guess, I don't know. I guess it could be kind of consistent with that UK music scene again, maybe.
Yeah.
But there is that thing where they could have timed the music to that. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we mentioned F-Zero X, but WipEout probably is visually more of an inspiration here.
Yeah, thematically, visually, and they're both UK developed games. There's definitely more similarities between WipEout and this than F-Zero is its own thing, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, F-Zero is just kind of untouchable in that sense. F-Zero is like electronic, whereas this is like grime and industrial, like Prodigy. I keep saying their name wrong, but I swear I know. I used to listen to them.
F-Zero is, I would say, more like it's like guitar riffs, right? During the F-Zero X.
Yeah, it's especially X is just heavy metal. I mean, it's just.
Oh, I didn't do well enough in that.
Look at this.
Look at this. That actually looks really cool. The visualization of this. Oh, it dumps you right.
It's always gonna smash you like a patty.
Wow.
Actually make you into a McDonald's patty.
And I just beat that cup just before we started recording even, and then underperformed. That's how it goes. But I think so. That's a cool look at Extreme G, right?
Yeah, I would love to look at the sequels one day. There was one on N64 and Windows. There was one on GameCube, right?
GameCube, Xbox.
Yeah.
And then there was the sequel to that, which is XGRA.
I would love to look at them one day because I've only played the GameCube one, so
that's the same.
We have to come back to
same.
Extreme G.
But yeah. So with that said, let's move on to the next game, and we'll find out what it is in just a second. And here's the next game for us from Psygnosis. You already know what this is. This is WipEout
I already know.
64. WipEout 64. I think this is a good choice for this because we recently completed our PlayStation 1 launch video, and a lot of people were like, "Hey, where's WipEout 64?"
Yeah,
well,
it's a very common comment to see.
Turns out that WipEout 64 is not a port of WipEout. It's its own unique game, and that's exactly what makes it so interesting. It's with that said, let's jump into the race here. Challenge 1. See what we gotta do. Let's give this a try.
I've actually never played this.
I haven't played this for a while, so I could be terrible at this. But first impressions is that it actually looks pretty good. Like
amazing.
Like really like not far off from. I mean, in some ways better than PlayStation. In other ways, maybe not as impressive as 2079. But
the lighting effects already on the what are these cars called? Wipeouts?
No.
I don't know what they're called, but this already looks better than the PlayStation version, obviously.
Well, it looks better than WipEout 1, but
yeah,
I think the style is derived from the sequel to WipEout, which looks really good. But this also looks great. I have to admit, they did a really nice job bringing this to N64. The colored lighting everywhere, the smooth frame rate. And you know, just to, we commented this in that video, but it's doubly so here. I assume this is down to contracts and other agreements they had when they were purchased. But Psygnosis was owned by Sony at this point, right?
Yeah.
And they were still allowing their IP to appear on other consoles. So this is
it's very special,
right? Like, it's hard to imagine that happening much today. Oh.
Yeah, I mean this, especially WipEout at this time, it would be like if on the Switch we would get a Uncharted game almost, you know, from Naughty Dog.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Kind of like, and I think Namco also did Ridge Racer 64, which is also its own thing, right?
I think that was made by NST, so
yes,
it is very much its own thing. But yeah,
one thing I noticed about this when you turn it on was that there was lots of warnings regarding packs, and it reminded me of the N64. The fact that if you used the memory pack and the rumble pack, you had to swap all the time. Not the best system in hindsight.
Along those same lines. So the rumble pack itself, if you wanted to use rumble, it actually requires batteries.
Yes.
So it is not. It doesn't just work. Which is also kind of interesting, I would say. Oh my goodness!
Wow!
Wow!
You were destroyed. I never even seen that.
So that's something that didn't happen at all during my play of the PlayStation version. So maybe they're just more aggressive in this one. All
music tracks. The music in this game, I would assume, is a lot of loops, low quality.
Yeah,
loops,
we can't hear it during the recording. But I would imagine it's not the CD quality stuff you got on N64. Or sorry, on PlayStation.
PlayStation, yeah.
Which makes sense.
This would be very similar to the situation with Tony Hawk, which you did a video on.
Yeah, it just uses very short samples.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that was always the best choice for this kind of game, where it's better to craft the music to fit the console, I think.
Absolutely. In the N64's case, absolutely.
The main benefit here that you get over PlayStation is that this has nice texture filtering as well as perspective correct texturing in general, so it does help the course look a little more solid than PlayStation. Whoa. But yeah, I like WipEout. But these games, they do have a learning curve. Like, you can't just jump into them fresh. Like, you really, it does take a little bit to get back into it, but that's part of the appeal.
Yeah, I was never good at WipEout. I was pretty good at F-Zero. And pretty good at Extreme G, but I never learned WipEout, so
yeah,
it was never my game.
So I guess then you have a preference for Extreme G over WipEout then?
Yeah, I absolutely do.
Okay. Good lord. When those guys just jam you with those weapons. Oh.
I like the wave attack, the one that like
On the
creates
road?
that asphalt. Yeah, always like that.
It is cool. I agree.
Oh, look at this. I'm still pretty impressed by just how good this game looks.
Yeah, it does. All right, so I got the bronze
Not bad.
and AAA. Oh, just next challenge. There we go. Let's go.
Next challenge, yeah.
So there is
This
still
slight
loading.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the N64 cartridge doesn't use it's not like memory mapped ROM chips in the same way, I believe. So it does take a little bit more. Please insert your Rumble Pack if you have it. Actually, darn, I do actually. I should have inserted that.
Well, yeah, I don't think we spoken much about the Rumble Pack, but I assume for you it was the same as me, that when you got Star Fox 64, aka Light of the Wars, that was your introduction.
Yeah, exactly. I was not familiar with the concept of Rumble in a controller until Star Fox.
I mean, I played like arcade games.
Yeah,
with,
I was thinking that
force
too.
feedback.
Like arcade games obviously had that, but
Yeah.
that's a very different thing from just rumbling, which
Right.
I guess was the idea, was to simulate. Like, how can we simulate some of that at home? Must have been the
Right.
idea.
I have to say that like the Rumble Pack on Star Fox was amazing for its time.
It was.
Yeah, they were clever with it because it's not overused in that game. There's lots of lulls where it's not being used. Whereas I
Right,
think
right.
if you introduced it in a game where it constantly rumbled, it would have distracted, I think, from the overall effects of it. So Star Fox was cinematic enough that like you could cleverly use it, and that's something that kind of throughout the N64 era annoyed me, was that other games that used the Rumble Pack, I felt like just kind of tacked it on in that sense.
Yeah. The biggest,
and I was never a big fan.
and beyond that, the biggest problem, and something that this game obviously has along with others, is that so Nintendo's own games typically had built-in memory for saving.
Yeah.
But a lot of games required a memory pack for your controller. And the problem is that there's only one slot. So that's why you would often, if a game used a memory card for saving, you'd have to swap in the memory card, save your game, then pull it out when the game says so, and then swap in the Rumble Pack, which was kind of
I
annoying.
had a third-party device where it was a Rumble Pack and memory card in one, so you had this little dip switch on it,
Yeah.
which you flicked. It never worked though. I kept losing my saves because when you flick that switch, I think like the device really didn't like it. So, but I do know that there was several of them. So I'm sure some people in the comments can tell us how did you live with this? Did you have a Rumble Pack / memory pack device like third party, or did you just do the swap? I would be curious to see if anyone actually had a good dual unit.
Yeah, I've always had bad experiences with third-party
Same.
devices like that. Let's see here though.
Same.
It's like, okay, this game is, so I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna stick it in right here.
Oh, you're
like
gonna put
this.
the Rumble Pack in?
So we're gonna drop the cage.
Yeah, this is upping the ante.
Let's try this.
Purple skies. We lack purple sky boxes these days.
Yeah,
Bring
I
purple
agree.
back into video games.
Oh yeah, I'm getting rumble all right. It's
Alright.
fairly subtle
Let me
though.
know.
It's mainly for like when you bump into stuff.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Some good use of transparencies behind the. I didn't notice that on the other stages, but here you can see from the light, there's like a slight blue transparency from your vehicle.
Yeah,
That's pretty neat.
that was first introduced in WipEout 2097
Ah, okay.
on PlayStation.
Okay.
That's where they
It's
made.
not. It doesn't have dithering. It's just actual transparency.
Yeah, it's really transparency.
Wow.
It's very, very clear. It's an awesome effect. Much better than the original game in that regard.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Autopilot. Disengaging. That I don't think would be a acceptable power up in today's racing world. Engaging an autopilot.
Oh.
You know, like in Mario Kart or something. Can you imagine competitively
Oof.
if it autopilots for 3
Here
seconds?
we go. We got it again.
Alright.
Oh. Disengage right
That
there.
didn't help you at all, though. It crashed you into the wall.
Yeah, pretty much. Gosh, playing Wipeout like this, you really gotta be into it. It is tough to just go. But I really
I'm
haven't
glad we
played
get to
much
play this, though.
Yeah.
Because in the PlayStation video, as you mentioned, the comments, a lot of people, I think in the European episode,
Yeah.
for Wipeout, I think the #1 comment was really, what about Wipeout 64? Where's that comparison? And I wasn't familiar, as I wasn't a big fan of the series. I wasn't familiar with the fact that Wipeout 64 was its own unique version.
That's what makes it special.
And this looks great. I'm really surprised. I would have expected it to kind of be like, you know, it was a port to
It runs
N64.
really well, doesn't it? Like the frame rate's
yeah.
consistent. It's it looks good. The environments are nice and detailed. It's definitely a fantastic conversion.
Yeah, I would be
Or
curious to
original.
hear from Wipeout fans where they rank this game. I'm sure it has some setbacks musically, especially from the PlayStation version, but I would be very curious about, you know, track design, that kind of stuff, how this ranks.
Yeah. When you're not used to a track in Wipeout, and I just hit the Windows key on my keyboard, popping up the menu in front of the game screen where I'm capturing. Yeah, I don't have the braking down right now. This is terrible. I'm braking way too late. That's the trick with Wipeout, is you got to learn to anticipate the curves and sort of like turn and break into it. And once you get that, it feels great. But until that, you just smack into the wall like I'm doing here.
My friend, when the PlayStation came out, or shortly after, I forget when it came out, but he had a game called Cyberspeed, which is like a futuristic racer with like the car hanging on like a line. It was terrible, and he kept claiming that it was better than Wipeout. So I wonder where he is today.
I don't know about
I'll
that.
track him down and slap him in the face.
But perhaps we should swap to our final game for today.
Let's do it.
Something a little more, or maybe a little less known. So, what's it going to be? Let's find out right now. Yes, it's time for an RPG. We're playing an ASCII game.
ASCII.
Wait, locomotive? No, we're not playing an RPG. We're playing Aero Gauge. Who's played Aero Gauge out there?
Never played this.
Well, look at this then.
Wow,
Start off with a little graphics demo showing the game in action before I jump in myself.
I'm impressed by how it deals with the draw distance there.
Yeah, it's surprisingly cool.
And the skybox here is really neat and beautiful.
Right?
Background layer.
I can observe the game here before I begin racing, I guess. But you can see it's sort of like a bit more flight based, this racing, than the other two titles. But I miss this era, right? Like this isn't even all of them, right? This is just another futuristic racer on the system, but there's more than this.
Wow, what a neat logo that is.
Yeah, you're right. That is cool.
It's kind of like a futuristic graffiti. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, this man, when you say miss, I just miss the ability to create, you know, experimental games within genres that like not everything needs to be. I mean, it's unfair to say that we don't have it, because we have amazing indie developers today, and they're filling in that void, so to speak. Exactly. But there's still a general lack of a support from both consumer and publisher standpoint to take those risks, and they shouldn't be risks. You know, we should have space for these types of experiences that aren't super high on budget and you know, design necessarily. But I mean, you look at this. This wasn't the most. I never played it before, but you just look at the design, look at the, you know, look at the general game, and this is cool. Someone probably played this a lot when the N64 was out and really enjoyed it. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
there's still space for this kind of game today. I think it's a damn shame that we cannot find that middle ground anymore. It's either or, and we connotate indie games as, well, not we, but many people put that as a label. That's kind of like, well, you know, it's an indie game, so it shouldn't mean anything. It's
Exactly.
A fantastic game is a fantastic game. A fun game is a fun game. That's my rant for today. You can follow me on Twitter to hear more about it.
Well, a lot of classic games were developed by teams very small that would have been considered indie today, right? So
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Mega Man, you know,
Sonic.
Sonic. Yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, the scope of games are smaller, but at the same time,
They were forging new ground back then.
and you know, it's a smaller vision, but it's also more focused. With less people, you just have more.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel more of the creative aura of something. Whereas if you have a team of 1,000, nothing against those thousands, they do amazing work, but I just can't feel you. You gotta feel your hearts.
Exactly.
I love the car. Like, the cars here remind me a bit of Daytona.
Yeah, it's like futuristic Daytona. Okay, so now we're gonna actually do the proper race. Canyon Rush.
So would this be the Grand Chaser for the N64?
Oh, it's an interesting comparison. I doubt the music is as good as that though.
Oh, this doesn't have a Koji Hayama soundtrack. So no.
But this does run a lot smoother.
Yeah, I'm actually somewhat impressed by
How
the
fluid this
performance
is.
here too.
Yeah, it's pretty
You
much.
got these tunnels here, which definitely remind me of F-Zero X.
They are not B1. So I don't know any Tunnel B1 fans out there, but yeah. So
Oh, there's plenty. Tunnel B1. There was many. There's dozens of us.
So what am I doing wrong here? I feel like
Yeah, it feels like you're not using a boost or a weapon or something.
exactly. Oh no, that was the air brake. I don't want that. Yeah, I can't catch them for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Since
That's
I've never played
That's
this.
the camera.
Well, speaking of cameras, are you a you know, are you behind the car guy or inside the car guy in video games?
Oh, it depends on the game.
Ah, okay. So what's the game you prefer to be inside the car, and what's one that you prefer to be behind?
For more serious, like if I play like a Gran Turismo or something,
Yeah.
or like Forza Motorsport, not Horizon, I do I do tend to prefer the in-cockpit view, or
Yeah.
at least the first-person view. But for, you know, this type arcade racing games, I always like behind the car.
Yeah, so I would say like a Daytona, I would be behind the car. And then I really enjoyed the cockpit view in Need for Speed. That was the first time I started using it, because you could actually see the interior of the car. And I thought that was very neat. My dad, I remember, the first time I played Need for Speed was on PlayStation. And my dad, who I've spoken about before, he was not much of a gamer. But I still have some memories of him being impressed by video games. And I remember one of those times was Need for Speed, because you could see the interior of the car, and he couldn't believe how realistic that was. He's like, "Oh, it's like driving a real car. Does it feel like it?" It's like, "Here, take the controller." It's like, "Doesn't feel like a real car," and he just left it. So, but my dad,
Wow.
interesting specimen.
Just like this
Hopefully, his
vehicle.
brain can be preserved and researched.
Yes, exactly. Huh. So as someone that hasn't played that much of this game, I'm a little bit surprised by that result.
Canyon
What if I can do another
qualify.
track?
It's interesting. They give you a qualify race in this game to then set where you start in the race.
Alright, let me see. Because that's... I felt like I was missing something somehow.
Single match mode.
Controller.
Guess
config.
controller config. So there's a drift button. An air
Yeah.
drift. Very curious.
Okay, so I didn't really miss anything. That's... Huh.
do a single match mode and see if you can choose the stage. And look at these, just look at these designs. It's awesome. Like a Ridge Racer type track.
Yeah, let's see what this
That's
looks
the one
like.
you picked.
It's a foggy track, but let's see how this looks.
Ah, look at that. Got like
Okay.
a half pipe thing.
It runs so smoothly, though. I'm really surprised and kind of impressed by the overall performance here.
Yeah. ASCII ware. ASCII, yeah,
They published some of From Software's games, I think.
yeah, they absolutely did. Still around.
It's good.
They
Oh,
also
yeah.
made controllers, so
That's
they
true.
were, yeah.
ASCII pad.
Yeah,
Whoa,
that's
half
the
pipe.
one-handed RPG pad. The ASCII
That's
pad.
right. Wow, actually, this is pretty
This
epic.
is neat because here you can see there's like it really takes into account. I was gonna say earlier that it didn't seem like it took too much you know, advantage of you being able to go up and down, but you could see there that you could actually take multiple routes or to avoid
Yeah, exactly.
obstacles and stuff. So that's kind of cool.
The tracks are dense.
Dense with fog and with challenge.
Yeah.
And you got the N64 crowds there, just a smudge of colors. Love it.
It's the best they could do.
Well, you can look at something like WCW and WO Revenge and those games.
What
They got
about-
the crowds down?
How was the
Retro Pro
how were
Wrestling
the
too.
crowds in ECW Hardcore Revolution?
They're terrible. It's like a sparse 2 people in the crowd, and those games, God, they were terrible. Because like it would have commentary, which was somewhat impressive, but they'd also have like these people yelling to the ring, but it was like pretty sporadic. So it sounded like you had like 2 people watching.
Oh yeah.
RVD, I love you, and then it would just be quiet afterwards. Those games are terrible. The Acclaim wrestling games were not good. I when I did my book about wrestling games, I interviewed one of the developers for those, and it was the ECW games were interesting because the company ECW Extreme Championship Wrestling, they were really banking on those games to save the company because the wrestling games were such hot money at that time.
Wow.
And they were they couldn't do it. They were stuck with an engine that couldn't really progress, and the timeline that they couldn't do anything new. So it killed the company, unfortunately, in the end.
Okay, I'm missing out on that boost mechanic.
Yeah, it's probably
I
something to do
can't-
with timing.
Yeah, I can't hear the sound. So,
Yeah.
and look, they just take off, and
And you're done.
it's over. There's no catching them.
You can't rubber band them, unfortunately.
What on earth? Yeah, the
Oh, you got. I can see one on the horizon.
the AI
in the
opponents
fog.
in this are brutal. They just go.
I think this would be a pretty cool game once you learn mechanics, though. I can tell that like stage design stuff makes for some interesting tactics.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
I might actually pick up a copy of this.
Give it a look. Yeah.
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah, I
There's
made
a lot.
progress. I'm in 7th place now.
You're in 7th, and you can see the 6th. Gold is in your
See if we
in
can
your
do-
path.
See if we can do this. I'm gonna make my
What's
own
the car you
hardcore
picked, by the
revolution
way?
tonight.
You picked- Let's never play that.
Yeah, I like this car too. More than ECW Hardcore Revolution.
Yes. And they also did the Anarchy Rules, which is just as bad.
Didn't they do
Sure.
Legends of Wrestling or something?
That was the yeah, that was Acclaim, and that was the kind of continuation of that work. It was actually based on the same engine, but hugely modified, and it was an interesting take because it's more like a quick time based grapple system. And then you have to time specific presses to like a gauge, but it's still terrible. They really never got a hang of it was a hard time for developers
Right.
because AKI had absolutely perfected the wrestling game genre, and
Oh, yeah.
still to this day we linger in kind of like the absence of that because it was just so good, and then anything else just didn't hold up.
Yeah, just like my skills in this game.
We got sixth. Hey, it's
Wow.
not eighth.
This is brutal.
But they say you only remember the people that came first and last. So
Oh, so yeah, there we go. That's 3 N64 racing games, if you will, specifically futuristic racing games. Because if we're just talking N64 racing games, there's a lot actually. This
Yes.
system is
good
absolutely
system for
packed.
it.
So, in fact, that whole generation was just great for racing games on both consoles and in the arcade. I feel like
Absolutely.
every console had great racing games. The arcade had great racing games. It was a golden age for racing, and it's
Where is the arcade racer today? Where is this type of racing game where, no simulation, no nothing, you just pick a car, pick a
Yeah,
stage
right?
and go.
like no open world, no simulation, no real cars. Just let us drive something crazy, and it is sorely missed. But I guess the market is outgrown that. So alas, here we are.
Has it? Has it? Or is it just
I don't know.
I don't think I think people would like this again.
I would love to see this kind of game return, or Ridge Racer or that kind of stuff specifically. But
Yeah.
yeah, futuristic racing games as well. I do miss them. Oh, and here's another track that we didn't see yet.
Yeah, the like nighttime
This
stage.
one looks lucky.
Pretty neat.
Wow, look at that.
Not much fog here, just lots of popping.
Yeah, man, the N64. There's something very specific about the way these games look. I must say, like still today, it's just the way things looked and moved, and I don't know. There's something special about its appearance, even if it's rather dated
There's
in many ways.
innocence. There's an innocence to this era.
Feels
where
very experimental.
Yeah, with all the flaws and all the improvements that we will get in the future, there's an innocence to this that kind of makes you go like, "Aw," and then you still enjoy them.
Exactly.
It's the awe era.
Exactly. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. So, yeah, thanks for watching all the way to the end, and thanks for joining me on this one again, Audie.
Of course, it's my job.
And, of course, let us know in the future if there's any other games you want to see us sort of do a Let's Play on. Not necessarily games that get the full DF Retro treatment, though who can say Extreme G may get it at some point. I don't know. We'll see, because I do like that series. But,
It's pretty cool.
yeah, let us know. And we'll see you next time.